welcome to Salubrisking with Dr. Irene. Life is filled with challenges for each and every one of us. Many times these challenges come when we least expect them, but each and every challenge, whether we recognise it or not, is here to teach us something. Christine Hart-Savage was faced with domestic violence that was not only impacting herself, but the health of her children. Christine found remarkable ways to break through the black curtain of depression and anxiety and free herself and her children from what seemed like an impossible situation to run from. Welcome, Christine.
Thanks, Irene. Thanks for having me.
Now, I met you some years ago on your radio show, Southern FM, which was on Southern FM, Mind, Body, Heart and Soul. And we've become friends over the years. But it wasn't until recently when I interviewed you for your summit that I learnt about this. And I thought, I need to have you on the show because so many of us struggle with challenges, and there can be various types of challenges. Doesn't necessarily need to be something like domestic violence. It can be anything from career situations or stress around family or ill health, whatever challenges it is. It can be very confronting to deal with, and I wanted you to share a little bit about your story and how you got through something that was so challenging for you to do at that time.
Yes, yeah, I'd love to speak about it because, we're going back sort of 28, nearly 30 years ago now. And at the time, it was incredibly challenging. But I find that when you're in a situation like that, you're really in it. You're sort of lost within it. And often you just can't see things really clearly. So if I go back, I realise now a lot of my life was coming from low self-esteem.
Okay.
So what I was doing to myself inside, I started to really attract to me in my outer world. Okay. But not that I knew that at the time. Yeah. So I've been married twice, and my first marriage was not healthy in lots of ways either. But it was my second marriage who that person really, I woke up during that time frame.
Okay.
So how it really started was unusual because I was working for a hair care company in Melbourne, and I'd gone into head office, and I walked down the passageway, and this man that I had never seen before in my life walked towards me. And as we passed each other, I had this random amazing thought that he's going to be my husband. Wow. And I thought, oh my goodness, where on earth did that thought come from? How crazy is that?
Oh gosh.
Anyway, I didn't see him again for a long time. And then we had he wasn't working for the company then. Okay. Apparently he was in there for an interview, I think.
Okay.
And then the annual conference was coming up. And I knew I'd see him there, and I did see him, and, we got on well, and I got on well with everybody, and came back to Melbourne and didn't have any contact with him again for the next 12 months.
Okay.
And as the conference was coming up again, I had this feeling like, oh my goodness, my life is going to change on some level, even though I'd had no contact with him. And during the conference, we saw each other quite a bit, had lots of talks, got on really well. And, we sort of intimated that we should be together, but he was living in another state and I was living in Melbourne with I'm single mother of my children. And I thought, well, that's just impossible, absolutely impossible. But then he asked me to marry him. And I didn't really answer at first, but 3 months later, we were married.
Wow.
I was so in love with him.
Wow.
He was very charming. Very charming. Yeah. But what happened is we both, we moved to a different state together.
Okay.
And, I left working for that company and because he was working for that company. And so the kids and I moved into a different state away from my family and my friends. And we started to build our life together in this new marriage and family there. He didn't have any children.
Okay.
And it was just a living hell.
Straight away, was it? Straight away? Or
not long afterwards, I started to notice different aspects of him that I didn't know about. And really, I didn't know him. When I think about it, to be married like 3 months later, I didn't really know him.
No.
So, and I don't blame him for any of these things. I can see now how his previous life, like his childhood, and has affected him, like it has affected all of us, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it was a pretty tough time. And we ended up moving back to Melbourne around that 2.5 to 3 year period in the marriage. And it just became worse and worse and worse, the marriage. And then he moved out of the bedroom and started living in the front room of the house. And there was a what I call a servery from the dining room into the kitchen area. So it was an open cavity there that we could see into that room and he could see out. So he hung this black curtain, this black sheet there. So we couldn't see in and he couldn't see out. But that black curtain became this real symbol of dread for me because he was really mentally abusive as well as physically at times. But the mental part of it, that mental and emotional, that psychological part of abuse is absolutely detrimental to your health and your ability to make decisions. So when I would come home or the kids would come home, we didn't know what we were coming home to. It's like just creeping around, walking on eggshells all the time and just living on anxiety. And it was a terrible, terrible time. And because my self-esteem was so low, what I kept doing was blaming myself and trying more, overgiving all the time.
Yeah. And wouldn't really get you anywhere, would it?
No, you just go around in circles. Just go around in circles. And of course, it's like over a period of time with abuse, you become eroded. So it erodes you from the inside out. So you might look okay on the outside, but it's like this this exterior and the inside is falling apart and falling away until there's only the facade, the mask left. And in the end, that starts to break down too. And you are in major breakdown then. You really crash. And it's in that breakdown, if we choose it, that we can actually start to make changes in our lives by getting to know ourselves and what our patterns are and doing that in a really kind way, but a strong way.
Yeah.
Because we need to make changes. And where it's really hard is you know that everything is going to be disrupted in your life.
Yeah. And so how do you, when you say the foundation of your self-esteem was already low and then someone is kind of picking at you and reducing that self-esteem, how did you rise above it and sort of gather the strength to go, well, this isn't right and I'm not going to put up with it and I'm not going to have my children put up with it and get out? What was the moment, or how did you get that strength to move on from that?
Well, it's an interesting thing because, I really didn't have any strength back then. But what happened is I got to a point where I was so depleted over that time frame that I just was non-functional. I felt like my job was very taxing at the time as well. And I had my 2 children running them around because they were still quite young. And I just felt like every day I woke up, it was just going blindly through the day, just riding the bumps of the day and falling into bed and getting up. And you just caught in it. But what happened in the end was, because I was told when things had happened that they didn't happen, or if I did something that you didn't do that, you're losing your mind, you're crazy. Right. So the mental abuse and the self-doubt that started to happen inside me was incredible. And friends that I'd had my whole life, my then husband would say to me, do you know what your friends are saying behind your back? They're saying this about you and that about, building up this doubt in all relationships.
Yeah.
But the biggest one, my doubt in my relationship with myself and trusting what I had believed was real. Yeah. So that trust was absolutely broken down. So in the end, I would get to the point where I knew that I didn't know what was real and what wasn't real anymore. I didn't know what to believe. And I thought, I've really lost it here. So what I would do is I started off things like this. So a glass, and I'd put it into my hand and say, okay, I am holding a glass. That is real. That is reality. I put it down on the desk. Okay, I put the glass on the desk. That is based in reality. That is real. So I started to do that type of thing. And with the friendships, in the end, I said to myself, I have known that person because I'm going back into my 30s then. I have known that person for, say, 35 years. I trust that relationship. No matter what he says or anyone else says, I am going to trust my experience in that relationship. So I started to do this type of thing to help myself, because I was so broken that in the end, I couldn't listen to anybody. I couldn't do anything because I didn't have any energy. So the wonderful thing that I did gain out of that time was how to become very, very present.
Which is what you were doing. Yeah, that's what you were doing. You were grabbing things and going, right, I'm sitting here with a glass right now. And that was mindfulness. So, you know, I was speaking to someone earlier today, and we're talking about the connection we have with our illness and losing trust in our body's ability to heal. You had lost your trust in yourself as well, which was really the underlying, you know, a manifestation of the situation.
Absolutely.
So how did you gain the trust back for yourself almost?
Well, it was doing those processes. And the other thing I did do is I had this bit of, when I did make the decision to break up, and I went to court. And that decision, when I was in court with the magistrate, and I had to stand up in the, whatever you call the little box there, and I was shaking and sweating, and my voice was so shaky. But I can see now that part of my life was very, very important, because that was the first time I had ever chosen me first. And you know, that's really vital for the healing process, is to starting to choose you. And it isn't anti anybody else. It's not done in a selfish way, but a self-honoring way.
Yeah, definitely.
Because what happens with a lot of those challenges is not just abuse, but all sorts of challenges. We make ourselves wrong.
Yes. And
we need
not putting yourself first.
Yeah. And in a clear way. So we need to really pull things apart and look at them in a totally different way. But when we're overwhelmed with that sort of thing, where life is on top of us completely, it's very, very hard to see clearly.
Yeah. And so what advice would you have for someone who's going through any challenge and it could be anything, like I said. I mean, we have challenges in all aspects of our life. It could be health, it could be family, it could be relationships, career, not being in a job that we like, and we're challenged by not feeling comfortable to go into the space that we actually want to go, or perhaps it's politics at work. I hear this a lot in my clinic. You know, in the corporate world, there's all these politics at work, and it really drains the energy out of people, in addition to the energy they expend during work. So any challenge that someone has, how do you, I guess, muster up the courage or the self-love or the trust to really move beyond that and know that you're going to make the right decision by moving forward?
Yeah. And I think you've hit the nail on the head there about making the right decision. And it takes in a lot of aspects. I think it really takes in the physical, like our behaviors and actions. It takes in our emotional state, mental state, and our spiritual state, because we really need to get them aligned.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about so many thousands of people that I've worked with over the last nearly 26 years, 27 years coming up. It's so many different people. You know, I've got university lecturers and teachers and the faculty that have problems with different personalities within their group, or maybe different students, or that they don't know how to move from having a busy family life with young children or teenage children and challenges there, and going to work and having the time in their lives to do a good job in each aspect. It's like wearing different hats for each different thing. So it's looking at how we have our life work completely on all those levels. So it could be that, you know, someone runs their own business. I see a lot of business people too. And how do we have that work with the pressures and the challenges and stresses that come with that, and then have our personal life work as well, now friendships work, that life-work balance of having time for ourselves, for our friends, for our family, and our career path. I see a lot of psychologists that in their work, they're taking on so much, listening to people and helping people, those sort of fields, it's very stressful. So how do they release the stress that actually builds up in the body? Because whatever the challenges are, and lawyers, I mean, really, I've got barristers and lawyers that their field is incredibly stressful. Again, it's mental, it's cerebral, the same as the psych. So we need to be able to release that stress from the body and also handle anxieties that come through life. And there's so much anxiety. In one of the surveys I've recently done, that was just huge. And of course, that was my background. Panic attacks, not being able to feel like I could breathe, and really crippling panic attacks, going to a thing called tetany and really crippled up. And that sort of fear stops us from living our lives. And the feeling of that in the body is incredible tension, not just in the brain area and the head, but also in the body. So it's looking at all of these different aspects of ourselves as we start to move forward, depending on what the challenges are. And often there's quite a few. I don't think anyone escapes life ever without having their own, you know, bucket of challenges.
And I think there's a reason, you know, it helps us grow and helps us be the people we are. And you know, when you've experienced something like yourself has experienced your situation, then you have more understanding and insight into helping someone else. So if we're completely immune from any challenges, then we can't understand someone else when they're going through theirs. So with anxiety, I see a lot of anxiety as well. What do you believe, in your expertise, do you believe is the underlying reason for anxiety, or the underlying cause?
Not good enough. Feeling not good enough. Feeling it's a self-esteem issue. I do believe.
And do you think that's something from childhood, or do you think it's something that someone can be very self-assured, very confident, and for whatever reason suddenly just feel really inadequate? Do you think, or is it something for someone to suffer that intensely, it's more of a childhood issue that they need to sort of reflect on and look back upon?
Look, it could be many, many things, but I think childhood does have a lot to do with it. You know, the way we've been conditioned by our parents, who are doing the best they can too, but often our self-esteem and the way our society works, even within our school systems and that too, we lack that teaching around self-love and self-esteem. And it needs to be done in a very practical way, teaching people how to communicate, how to make decisions, how to understand themselves at an emotional level, as well as a mental and physical level and spiritual level. So I think it takes in a lot of different aspects. And the other thing is self-esteem and self-esteem and confidence are two different things.
People
could be quite confident, but their self-esteem be extremely low as well. And vice versa. And there's other things too, like there's some people out there that have been really successful on every level. Say their relationships work, their family has worked, you know, with the children. They're built up a fantastic business that's really successful. They're financially successful. And I get people like that come in and say, I've got everything. Everything that people talk about, my life is from the outside is fantastic, but I'm lost. I don't know who I am. I don't know why I'm here. I don't know what my life path should be. And I'm thinking of a particular man from years ago who just so successful. He said, I've got everything.
Mm.
I said, so are you feeling an emptiness inside? And he said, yes, that's it. So, there's that aspect too, where the self-esteem is pretty good. The confidence level is fantastic and everything's successful. But there's another part that we can tap into, which fills up that cup within us, that makes us feel rich and comfortable, no matter what's going on the outside, in our outer life.
Yeah.
And there's a journey that way as well. When I had my breakdown, I accessed another part to myself that I didn't know existed. And what I went through took me 180 degrees into a totally different life. So as we've discussed a couple of times before, our journey, when it's tough like that, it's often taking us into a whole new life, a whole new understanding of ourselves. And, people, why am I here? What is my journey? That usually will open up once we understand how to deal with the things that we're going through, how to pull it apart and make different decisions. And for me, the self-esteem part and the stress leaving my body and learning how to deal with anxiety at those levels where you could start to believe in yourself more and trusting myself more. A lot of that really changed for me when I learned meditation, when I learned breathing skills. And I'm a great believer, if anyone has anxiety, they need to learn to breathe correctly. That's why I really went into teaching people how to breathe and learning all about that, because with anxiety, we do not breathe well. We are terrible breathers.
And you know what? The last two interviews I've done for this podcast, and they're not breath work practitioners like you are, but in our conversations, that was one of the aspects they said. We need to breathe. We need to breathe. Both of them said we need to breathe. And the reality is that breathing is involuntary, but it needs to be at a deeper state than what we're doing. We're very shallow breathers, and
consciously breathing, like really understanding your breath, what you do with your own breathing, which is most of us have never even thought about, and then learning to breathe correctly and then consciously bringing that in.
Which is amazing, because people would think, well, I'm breathing, I'm alive, aren't I? But it's
maybe not just alive.
Because you're not getting the oxygen deep down to the cellular level. It's all very
it's oxygen and it's energy as well. So if we're only half breathing, we're only half alive. If we're only quarter breathing, we're only quarter alive. And people with anxiety, they are definitely not breathing correctly, and they're usually breathing upside down. Completely upside down. So that is a really good place to start, no matter what, is learning how to breathe correctly.
And for anyone listening who wants to know more, they should check out the podcast we did earlier, where you disclose all the ins and outs of breathing correctly and retraining the body. So there's definitely information out there for anyone who's interested. It also strikes me when you're talking, I was thinking about my husband, because my husband was a security guard at Crown Casino for many years and kind of fell into it. It wasn't his life's purpose, certainly wasn't his life's purpose. It was more like, this will do for the interim while I figure out what I want. And he got so submerged into it. That's him coming in, and he's got this thing with you. This is the second interview we've done that he walked in on.
Irene, honey.
he left when I gave him that look of, what are you doing to me again? And there was a situation. He got very, like I said, he got very immersed into the work, and was working in the union to protect the guards and honouring their rights in the job and all this sort of thing. He was very integrated in that process. And one day he got assaulted. He just standing there at the door. This kid came up to him, started a conversation, and randomly took a bottle out and striked him.
Whoa.
Now this, and struck him on the face. So he was sent to hospital and needed surgery because of a depressed fracture and all this sort of stuff. Anyway, at the time, just before we got married, so he was, you know, very distressed. I was very distressed for him. And, you know, now we look at the fact that he was on the wrong path and he needed something excessive to shift him off that path. So what happened subsequent to that, returning back there, he just didn't feel right for him. It wasn't what he actually wanted to do. And then he started looking to what was his life's purpose. What does he love? What does he enjoy? And now he has grown this business where he imports sports supplements from various countries around the world and brings them to Australia, and he's deeply passionate about it. He's grown his business on his own without any help, and he actually feels like he's fulfilling his life's purpose. So sometimes, you know, these challenges don't necessarily need to be bad. That was a very aggressive, violent way, but I don't think he would have taken the message on board if it was a very subtle tap on the shoulder. It needed to be excessive and to really jolt him and go, right, okay, maybe I'm on the wrong path. So, you know, your situation, as terrible as it was, maybe needed that
Absolutely.
aggression, I guess, maybe is not a right word, but the intensity of it, because you've done a complete 180 and fulfilling your life's purpose, which is a remarkable situation to be in, because, you know, taking all the money and all the material stuff away, what you're doing is healing someone else's pain, and that's just such a beautiful thing to do. So I think people need to be aware that challenges aren't necessarily bad. They could be something deep behind them that needs your attention.
A beautiful gift is always waiting underneath that, always waiting.
Yes.
And it's interesting how we often, I call them the 4x2s, you know, where you get clunked on the head.
Yeah.
And if it keeps happening and we don't make the changes or we don't do anything about it, it gets harder. There'll be another one.
Yeah.
And that's what happened with me until we wake up. And like your husband, that was a great gift, a terrible experience, but it helped him. The language I use with it, it helps us to stand up within ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, because often we're sitting, we're our small self, not our biggest self.
And we're sort of afraid to rise above that, aren't we? We kind of stay meek. And in Australia, it's very much trying to keep you, you know, pull your head in. All these phrases we have, you know, pull your head in, don't be so full of yourself. All these sort of phrases we have that keep people down like that. You know, we don't celebrate greatness. We don't celebrate success or even challenges within rising to the successful state. You know, we see a sports person who does well and then they do bad and everyone's ready to just, you know, crucify them. Yeah. As opposed to it being, hey, it's a learning experience for that person. They're going to figure out that's their journey, not yours, not for you to even have an opinion about. Focus on your own path. Yeah. And I think if you want to rise above it, it's almost not supported. So you know, with you rising above everything, was your support network a massive addition to helping you through that? Or did
no,
you
not initially. Not initially. So in fact, there was some resistance because we unconsciously or subconsciously teach people how to treat us.
Yeah.
Around us. So when often a person's starting to make different decisions and choices and becoming more, there's often resistance towards them in that. Yeah. So there, you know, it's really, that can be challenging too, but really still making those choices is really important. But there's usually by then a driving force inside that tells you this is the right way. It's like a shining light that's saying, come this way, this is right. Yeah. And yet the other side of you, which is really scared. It's like, oh God. One of the things that I had to break through saying wise was, who do you think you are? Yeah. Who do you think you are to have an opinion or to stand up or to want to do this or to have a dream or any of those things? And that is a self-esteem issue. Yeah, yeah. And also, because I talk about a lot in the space of having a support network. So hearing that you didn't have the support network and still
you know, rose above it and got through it. It's fantastic, because people say to me, well, I don't have supportive people around me, you know, I have challenging people around me, I have people that are bringing me down. So it's really good to hear on the flip side where you didn't have the supportive people and you still, you know, were quite capable of doing it, and really grew into a person that needed to override this. And I think that's what we need to do, is just become the person we need to become, and not the victim, and just sit there and complain and worries me, and going, you know what, I need to get my stuff sorted. And
you need to find that avenue of, you know, I used to read all these personal development books too. And I get that, I understand, but how do I do it? So that's what people, the how to move forward. And that's really an important thing, because often we just feel like, yeah, I'm getting it, I'm understanding, but how do I actually move through that? And there was something else I wanted to say, and it's gone. It's from my mind. About
but
moving
that's perfect. Like that's what I found a lot in various books I've read as well, is it's do this, and it's always the how. They miss the how do I do it? So that's perfect. What you're saying is, you know, find someone like yourself who shows the how, who has learned the how and actually is able to show other people. And I remember
what I was going to say, Irene, too. When we're looking at support systems and we don't have that support, the people around us can be quite challenged by our growth. But as we develop ourselves and get stronger in our self-belief, what happens is those people will either leave our lives or they will turn around and be supportive of. So the support does come back when you start supporting yourself.
And
Very
rising above that. I think also that's really important, because people come in and out of your life for various reasons, and if their purpose has been utilized and is no longer needed, then they do essentially drop off. And it's okay. It's okay to, you know, have friendships dissolve, because sometimes people think, oh, what's wrong with me if I'm always having these conflicts, or I'm losing friendships, what's wrong with me? Well, sometimes they've just lived their course and it's expired, so it's time to sort of move on to different people around you that are kind of, my husband always says, if you want to fly like an eagle, you soar like with other eagles. And that's essentially what you want to do. You create a community of people around you that have similar passions and drives. So
you know, we love that thought of a world that is compassionate, strong, and intimate. It's very important for us to have intimate relationships with people, you know, where we feel safe and we can share things. We do need to pick the people around us who we share very, very private things with. We need to be very smart around that.
Absolutely.
I think that building that intimacy, the stronger your self-esteem becomes, the more you start to like who you are in a good way, not an egotistical way, but that really healthy way. I think that is important. And then you tend to draw in people who are like-minded, like-hearted, and then life becomes sweeter. It becomes juicy. You know, it becomes it becomes like, I love my friends, I love my family. No, none of us are perfect.
No.
None of us. But there's an acceptance around yourself, and there's an acceptance around your friends and family, and you can be living more in a happier or joyous sort of thing. Doesn't mean everything's perfect. We all go through, you know, these ups and downs, but underneath that, there is an innate joy or happiness that sits there. Peace, we could call it that. It's always there when we get to the stage.
And I think it's important for people to be okay with challenges. I think this belief that social media has generated, that we need to show we're in a perfect relationship and we've got perfectly managed children and very successful children if they're older, and our life is full of holidays all over the world and very minimal stress and work.
I've never met anyone like that.
Social media, they're all on social media. And it's like, oh my goodness, you know, the people that have challenges have a more fulfilled and grounded life. And that's what it's about. It's about not necessarily living up to this belief that I need to have this facade, because that shows, you know, I was having a conversation with a patient on Friday about this, and she was saying, oh, I can't remember the guy, she sent me a link to his video, but she was saying, we've built this society that we're either a winner or a loser. So a winner is someone who's got the beautiful clothes on, drives a great car, lives in the perfect suburb with a beautiful house, has a great job. And a loser is everything that's got opposite to that. And so our life we spend attaining this stuff, attaining the beautiful house, attaining, like your client did, attaining all this stuff, which would identify with him being a winner, but in actual fact he felt like a loser. So as soon as you break down this belief system that you're either a winner or a loser, and you just who you are, and you're on this path and you figure stuff out and you get challenges and ups and downs, then it all just happens without you feeling that stress and anxiety, as you said, anxiety about this expectation. I've got a patient at the moment who's got terrible anxiety, and it all comes down to that self-belief and self-worth. And I think that's really perpetuated by this belief that we need to be represented as a winner, otherwise we're going to be a loser. And it's just it's horrible. And I see it in people. I see the conversations they have with their little children, even, you know, phrases that are used, you know, oh, what are you going to be when you're older? They're like 3 years old. I didn't know what I was going to be older when I was 18 years old. You know, what are you
going to be until I was about 35, 36. And even that was sort of quite different.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I think being okay with challenges is what I think the premise of today's been, and, you know, rising above it and seeking assistance. So I want to talk about a little bit about your programs. You've got 2 programs that run for 6 months and run for 12 months. And obviously they're very, you know, people need to be right for this program. They need to be ready to embark in this program. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm only taking 10 people in each program, because I really believe that as people progress forward, you know, I just think I like to work with people so that we have success. So their successes are my successes too, and we have a win-win situation for where they're going. So I'm only taking 10 in each program at the moment. So you know, it's got to be people who want to change their life, find out more what their life purpose is by looking at the past and starting to really work with those different parts. You know, like the mental, the emotional, the physical, the actions and behaviors that are unconscious and conscious, and the spiritual part of us as well, whatever people may call that. So it's not, you know, it's not religious as such, but it's working with that part that we all know we've got underneath. It's that deeper intelligence, or that soul, or that universal or cosmic intelligence, or whatever. It's a knowing inside. And we all, or a conscience, we all know that we have that. And then teaching people, making sure they're breathing correctly, teaching them all the different skills to start making different choices and moving forward, moving through doubt and fear and, oh, I can't have those things. We can. And it just depends. And those things can change as we go along too. But it's finding more of a freedom and a liking of the self and feeling filled up inside. Bit by bit, by the choices we make. So I only work, even clinically, I only work with people who want to work. Want to really, really open up and have a good life.
And I think people that are ready, you know, and I've seen patients come back after 4 years and they go to me, I wasn't ready then. I'm ready now. I'm ready to listen and do what I need to do. And that's just where people are in their journey. And so, you know, if that's where they are in their journey, then that marries up well with what you're delivering. So
absolutely. And that's perfectly okay too. If someone says, oh, I'm not quite there yet, you know, I'm not quite ready, you know, totally respect that. Sometimes when things get really bad, it's like, I'm ready. I can't cope anymore.
Rock bottom, as they call it, right?
Exactly. Totally rock bottom.
So they can check out more of your resources at Breathe for Life, Breath for Life.
Breathe for Life with me.
Breathe.
BREATHE for life, FORLIFE.com.au.
Yeah.
And my website's like ancient and it's not phone friendly or anything. So we're just starting. That's all going to be redone. The programs aren't on there, so people would need to email me to find out more. So and I won't be advertising everything on the website around that, because I really want to vet the people that I work with around this.
Yeah.
So that's what I'll do. So they would contact me at Christine@breatheforlife.com.au or Christine@thebreathinglady.com.au.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah.
So you've heard it all today. I think if you're struggling with a challenge and you're feeling overwhelmed and anxious, there's certainly light at the end of the tunnel. Even if you don't see the light is definitely there. You just need to move things away and the light will shine through. And if you need help, reach out, because that's what we're here for. That's essentially why we're here on this planet, to help each other out. And that's why we each individually will have our own challenges, because we're able to help each other. So if you need help, you find the people that are able to deliver that help, and Christine is one of those people. So make sure you check out her website. Her new website will be up at some point, but in the meantime, contact her and share your story, and she'll be able to let you know whether it's something she can help you with. So thanks for tuning in to Salubrious Skin with Dr. Irene, and be sure to check out our next episode and subscribe to receive upcoming episodes in your inbox, and let us know what you'd like to know more about, any comments about today's show, and anything else that you would like to share. We're very open to hearing. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you again next time.